Thank you for checking out this Genius 180-day review video series. This is a long one here on price analysis, yet there's a lot of incredible information. And this is going to show you not only a look into Genius, but this is going to show you a system that I've come up with for looking at tokens and looking at cryptocurrencies. And let's see. Okay, yeah, except for one. Okay, so I have done amazing in every single cryptocurrency that I have gotten involved in, except two meme tokens. Long ago with Dogecoin, I helped with a whale group pump the price quite a bit, turned 100 grand into a lower number, and also Coin. Excuse me. So I did amazing with everything except for two meme tokens that I was messing around with in, I think, 2013, 2014. So here, price analysis. First, let's talk about altcoins. It's going to come up again, and it's important because right now in the crypto world, you have like your bedrock tokens and you have your altcoins. The bedrock tokens are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Long ago, there was Bitcoin and everything else was an altcoin, even Ethereum. However, Bitcoin showed that we can program money, that society can program money, and then Ethereum was an altcoin. It was doing the experimental stuff. But then Ethereum, the experimental stuff turned out to be a huge success. So it was no longer an altcoin. Ethereum became another one of the bedrock tokens, right? It became the mainstream of crypto. So you have Bitcoin and Ethereum, and everything else right now, they're altcoins. And right now, with how the market is going, the bedrock tokens are doing great. Price has gone up quite a bit, right? There's a bit of a bump going on right now, a positive bump, and that's cool. But what we have to remember, well, they're doing great. They are the bedrock of crypto after all. But all the other tokens, the altcoins, they do experimental things. They experiment with what the future of cryptocurrency will be like. And Genius is doing such an experiment. Genius is doing an experiment to see money could be programmed, and Ethereum showed that we can amplify our ability to transact and our ability to automate contracts, which is huge. Excuse me. And in this video series, in its entirety, will illustrate all that for you. It will illustrate how Genius, an experimental altcoin today, is likely extremely potential to become another bedrock token and has an amazing future. So to do this analysis, we're going to talk about 95% drops, 95% dips, and value in tokenomics. So an 180-day price review on Ethereum for Genius. This is on this chart, it's stretched a bit so you can see the whole history, the whole price history. And really this is a big drop. You have the price going to what is called 5 zeros and then a 7. So the price had went from 3 zeros and a 12 to 5 zeros and a 7, which is a 95% drop. So Bitcoin has done 95% drop and more. Ethereum has done 95% drop and more. And many altcoins do the same. Which ones recover? Well, it depends on a lot of stuff, and that's what we're going to go through. The thing to know, though, is that right now is a bad time to sell. It's not the time to sell. And for everybody who does sell, be very grateful. Very grateful. If your desire is to get a better position with a token that has an incredible future, then be thankful for everyone who sells. But if you're in a position where you feel like you need to sell, right, in this bad time, need cash, remember what we talked about in the prior video, find a better strategy. There are share auctions for your miners, there are credit card loans. You don't always need money. Sometimes you need a better strategy. This is an excellent time to buy. And you know what? This is evidenced with MEV bots, or miner extracted value bots. Bots that basically, they take advantage of your decentralized exchange. They take advantage of your purchase with a crypto. They take advantage of the slippage and the market inefficiencies. And they do that for profit. Now, when MEV bots, when they do things for profit, they're pretty much always doing it to get the Bedrock tokens, or to get the US dollar stablecoin, or to get the native token Ether, or whatever other native token for whatever other blockchain. But you know what's crazy? Is the fact that MEV bots, they're still arbitraging for Genius token. They would rather have Genius token than stablecoins. They'd rather have Genius token than the native token. That is an incredible sign. That is a really good sign. It shows that some serious tech individuals, they would rather take the Genius. They would rather get a better position at Genius. And by the way, look on the screen at the bottom. There is this date and time here. You can reference that date and time on the Uniswap, or look at dexscreener.com and look at the Ethereum pair for Genius. Sorry, I think it's the Genius and USD Tether pair. And you can see an example where a MEV bot prefers Genius. So the big question here, when there's a 95% dip, it's important to ask yourself, is there a financial future for this asset? Whatever asset it is, it's very important to ask yourself that. Because if there isn't a financial future, you may as well find the thing that does have a financial future, right? That is, if you're in the market to get a good position, a good financial position today for the better economy in the future. So since like 2013, maybe late 2013, which was a time of many altcoins, right? Remember Genius is an altcoin? Well, there's this like checklist I came up with. And I've used this for the longest time. In fact, I've used it so much that really it's mostly off the top of my head. I intuitively do. And in this checklist, the more yeses, the better. The more yeses, the more that there's a financial future for the asset. There's an exceptions, but let's go over some of them. Well, the first question is there utility other than the asset's price? That's important. It has to be useful. If it's not useful, then it's just the price. That's not useful. Price isn't useful. Speculative price isn't useful. You can make money off of it. Other question is it deflationary and does it make sense? It's important that both of those are a yes in order for this to be a yes. Because deflationary tokens, if a token is deflationary or cryptocurrency is deflationary, it doesn't really matter. It has to make sense. There has to be an incentive or reason for that deflation that benefits everyone. There has to be a reason that the person or the thing that is causing that deflation, there has to be a reason that it happens. So for example, if somebody's burning their own tokens, that's deflationary. But does it make sense for somebody to burn their own tokens? Not really. This is a similar question, but it's a very important detail. Well, is the deflation incentivized? Because if there's incentivized burning, that can show a bright future. But does it make sense? That's important. Does it make sense? Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? Is it performing better than its competitors? Performing better than its top competition? That can tell you a lot about a future of an asset. Will it still be useful or be valuable with no new users or new money? If it needs new users and needs new money, it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, you could say this about businesses. You could say they're Ponzi schemes because they require new users and new money. But no, not all businesses do. So this is important. Well, let's look at this for Genius, right? That's what we want to know. Is there utility other than Genius's price? Yes, absolutely. There's a ton of utility. If you don't know what that utility is, check out that Simply Genius video series, geni.to/simplygenius. That's the URL you want to type into your domain, or not your domain. You want to type it into your web browser. By the way, I misspeak a lot, so if any of you catch me misspeaking, please make a correction in the video. It has taken me a lot of practice and a lot of rewatching myself speak, re-listening to myself speak, rewatching myself. It has taken me a tremendous amount of practice, and it still happens. All right, so Genius, is it deflationary and does it make sense? Yes. In fact, Genius is deceptively deflationary. It makes sense in the context where Genius, as what we went over earlier, is as, for example, is it worth it for somebody to end their mining early? Well, not is it worth it, sorry. Somebody wants to end their miner early, but it's going to burn some of their tokens. Does it make sense for them? Yeah, if it's profitable, yes. So the burning's in place because it makes sense, instead of just giving them all that profit for breaking their commitment. Is there incentivized deflation? And does it make sense? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Think the Genius collateral vault. People are burning their Genius to redeem the tokens for Genius's like closed market. Genius is in contract liquidity. It makes sense for them to burn their tokens because they're not trading it with someone else. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? Yes. All right, so Genius is a finished product. It is not a project. However, there are developers in the Genius community who are making all sorts of cool things. I took over the Genius NFT programming and stuff, and that adds demand. More on that in the future slides. Is Genius performing better than its competition? Yep. We saw earlier on Pulse Chain. When it comes to altcoins, Genius is doing really well. Will it still be useful or valuable with no new users or money? Yes. Well, you see, Genius doesn't require new users or new money. All Genius requires, well, you know what? Let's talk about Bitcoin. What does Bitcoin require to be successful? What does it require to have a future? Well, Bitcoin requires an internet society, right? It needs the internet. And it also requires that users are willing to use it, that they're willing to settle with it, that they're using to, that they're willing to consider it money. But will Bitcoin still be useful or valuable with no new users or new money? We'll go over that in the future. Here with Genius, what does Genius require? What does Genius require? Yes, it also requires an internet society. But Genius requires your attention and your intentions. So Genius requires that users are tending to it and they have their attention on it. And Genius also requires that people are making commitments. Let me simplify that. Genius requires an internet society. Without internet society, Ethereum, blockchains, Genius won't exist. We got bigger problems, probably. And then second, in other words, Genius also requires that people use it. Genius requires that, well, let's say it this way. Genius requires an internet society, and Genius requires that people want to make revenue. Now, a lot of the Simply Genius series doesn't go over ways that you can make revenue with Genius. However, the whole scope of this video series does go over how to make immediate revenue with Genius. So Genius has all sorts of revenue opportunities for you to use the contract, make money right then and there. And by this happening, people's attention is going to Genius. Things are happening and working, and it benefits commitments, and then people have reasons to make commitments. So yes, Genius it will still be useful and valuable without new users and without new money. There's a lot that can be said about this. After all, we're using language. But Genius requires an internet society and people to desire to make revenue. Well, is there a financial future for Bitcoin? Well, I don't think there's so much of one, but there really is, for a reason that's not on this checklist. But let's look at how it fares here. Is there utility other than the asset's price? Yes. There's lots of utility. Mining. There's a ripe ecosystem. Bitcoin has a ripe ecosystem, so that gives tremendous utility. Bitcoin is its own blockchain as well. Now, many things that are like Bitcoin and work just like Bitcoin, is there utility other than its price? The answer is no, because they don't have that ripe ecosystem. Ecosystem's super important. And no, it's not deflationary or making sense. So is it deflationary? Does it make sense? No, Bitcoin inflates over time. You can say, yes, people who lost their wallets, that's deflationary. So it doesn't really count here. That's not part of its tokenomics. Those are events that are inevitable, but very tiny. They happen very tiny, especially the more relevant Bitcoin becomes. Is there incentivized deflation? Does it make sense? No, it's not there. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? No, not anymore. Recently Bitcoin did have to come together with ordinals. They had to become more relevant. I don't know much about that story, so can't say yes, because what's on Bitcoin's roadmap now? Don't get me wrong. Excuse me, don't get me wrong. There are many things. But are they building demand? No. They're like fixing its own problems. Is it performing better than its competitors? Yes, Bitcoin is. And a lot of this has to do with Bitcoin's first mover advantage. Will it still be useful or valuable with no users or no new money? No, it won't. Sadly. This is why Bitcoin had to get more relevant recently. So you see, is there a financial future for Bitcoin? Bitcoin's doing incredible, and it only ticks off 2 of the yeses on this entire list. More about that in the future. Well, is there a financial future for Ethereum? Yes, there's utility other than the asset's price. Tremendous. Is it deflationary and does it make sense? No, it doesn't. In fact, the deflation contradicts its utility. So these questions take a lot of experience to answer. But for example, Ethereum, it's complex, probably out of the scope of here. Is there incentivized deflation burning? Does it make sense? No. The more Ethereum gets burned, the higher the price of Ethereum, the higher the price it costs to transact, the more apps become untransactable. It's actually a disaster for Ethereum, and they're eventually going to have to, the team, they're eventually going to have to do something about that. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? In fact, Ethereum doesn't need a roadmap. It's a platform for many other smart contracts. So there are hundreds, thousands of teams that are building demand. Is it performing better than its competition? Yep. In fact, if Ethereum did not make certain key moves in the very beginning of its life, we would all probably be using BitShares or EOS. But Ethereum did some key things that secured its future. Will it still be useful or valuable with no new users or money? Sure will. Existing users, not existing money. Let's say people dumping the price of Ethereum because fees are too high. So Ethereum doesn't require new users or new money. All right, is there a financial future for Hex? Well, is there utility other than the asset's price? No? Okay. Is it deflationary? And does it make sense? No. This is a strict definition. An origin address does not count. You could say, oh, but Robert, it does count. Look, the more you look into this, right? I would like to believe that. I would like to believe that it's deflationary. I would like to believe that it makes sense. But it's better that we're not in denial and that we really look at this. Hex is not deflationary. There are no incentives to burn Hex. And if there were, the question would be, does it make sense? But no. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? Nope. The roadmap for Pulse Chain didn't build demand per se. It allowed Hex to be kind of useful again, considering the fact that it had tremendous fees and no other place to use it. Is it performing better than its competition? No, it's not. I think you can say that Genius is a competitor of Hex, and Genius is doing better. Will it still be useful or valuable with no new users or no new money? Sadly, no. It won't. It won't. And now Hex had some good things going for it. And when I realized the flaws in its tokenomics, I told everybody I knew, like, I may not want to, never mind. And in fact, the Hex developers that knew about those flaws came to Hex World. Came to Genius World. Is there a financial future for Shiba Inu, the meme token? Well, is there utility other than the asset's price? No. Is it deflationary and does it make sense? No. So this is a good area to learn. Because yes, devs are burning, but you know what? Developers burning their tokens, that's insignificant. It's significant because they can't dump on you, but it's insignificant. Does it really change the dynamics of supply and demand? So it's not deflationary. It requires devs to burn their stuff. So is there incentivized deflation? No. The developers aren't incentivized to do it. Why would they do it if they're not incentivized? Well, they don't have the incentive, but they might be able to trick people into believing, look, these are being burned, there's less supply. And unfortunately, those are some of the tricks that are played on people. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? No. Is it better performing? No. It will be useful? No, it won't. Anybody watching this who loves Shiba Inu, like, I'm sorry, it doesn't have a future. Heck, I've been around with Dogecoin forever, and a few years ago, I bought some Dogecoin. I was getting major, collectors, edition, wanting to collect. I was getting major fear of missing out. I wanted to have some of my Dogecoin, and I still have it. I got it from Ren, whatever. Is there a financial future for Ripple? Well, is there utility other than the price? No. Is it deflationary? Does it make sense? No. The deflation in Ripple is insignificant. Less than 1% per year, that's insignificant. It is. What are you going to do? Wait 50 years for it to become significant? Is there incentivized? No. The burning is not incentivized. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? No, not really. Is it performing better than its competition? No. No one cares that Ripple's trying to do things better with the banking world and interfacing with people and in non-banked areas and other things that are Ripple's core mission and mission objective, but it doesn't. And no, it will not be useful or valuable with no new users and no new money. Sorry, Ripple. But hey, stay tuned. There's some good points. Is there a financial future for USDT? I threw this in here for educational purposes because after all, if you use a checklist like this, you've got to know how to answer these questions and what to look for. And it takes experience to do that. I have more than 12 years experience for it. And, dang, I wish there were more people who had that experience too. But it's rare. It's rare. But here, I thought there were some lessons that could be learned. Well, is there utility other than the asset's price? Why do I feel like that should have been yes? Oh, wait, no. No, there's no utility other than the asset's price itself. Actually, that is a yes. Of course there is. The utility is the fact that it's pegged to the dollar. My mistake. I think that's a mess up with the slide here. Is it deflationary and does it make sense? No. But is there incentivized burning? Does it make sense? Yes. The incentivized burning is you burn it to get the real dollars or to get the electronic transfer. I don't, I could ask Craig Sellers. I've got his contact. He would be like, who are you again? He'd probably remember me, but I could ask him. I wonder if Tether or USD Circle, I wonder if they will give you cash. Is there a team roadmap that builds demand? No. Well, I mean, there's their business development team. Is it performing better than its competition? It is. Not in price, but in the sheer amount of US dollar tethered that is being minted. USD Tether is doing amazing. Will it still be useful or valuable with no new users or money? Yes, it will. There doesn't need to be more users using this stable token. It'll still be valuable. It'll still be useful. So you see here, is there a financial future for USD Tether? Yes. Does it mean that it's a great investment? Might be a great investment in a bear market. So you see, this is just an interesting example. But very important here, does it have a national interest? Does it have national interest? This is a huge one to consider. Having national interest can change the life and change the future of any token. So like national interest means that it's possibly legal tender, or it could be legal tender, or it is legal tender, has utility to simplify government processes. This is important stuff. Like USD Tether, does that have national interest? No, actually it doesn't. Why would it? A nation, a bank, make their own token. Ripple does not have national interest either. Well, to be fair, the SEC thing going on, that is national interest, and that has been to Ripple's benefit. So, yeah, it doesn't have national interest, but, I mean, it does in a negative way. And bad news is good news? I don't know. Shiba Inu does not have national interest. Hex does not have national interest. Ethereum, yes. Ethereum and other smart contract systems, they have the utility to simplify government processes, and this is with countries like Palau, the island of Palau. Let me move on. Bitcoin, yes. Bitcoin is legal tender in El Salvador, and El Salvador has done some amazing things that many countries don't want you to know about. Amazing things as a result of having Bitcoin be legal tender, having people be able to buy a certain type of citizenship, kind of loophole thing to have citizenship or pay for their visa in Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin and even Bitcoin Cash has serious national interest. Antigua, St. Kitts, there's a lot of national interest. And Genius, yes, Genius has national interest. I've been spending quite a bit of time with other individuals and consulting on this area. I'm learning more about this. But Genius solves some major problems that money, finance, and nations have. So already, Genius isn't even a year in the making, in a year out in the wild, and there's national interest. All right, so there's that big list of things. Let's go back a little bit. We got that big list of, is there a financial future? These are yes or no questions, but a really important question as well is national interest. This is something that is relatively new. And this is a reason why I've started holding Bitcoin again, not long-term, but relatively short-term. And it's helped. It's been great. Same thing with Ethereum. All right, the 95% drop landscape. All right, if you want, let's have an intermission, pause this video, go get yourself a drink. I'm going to do that. All right. All right, let's put this all together with this landscape of this 95% drop. Because what we can see here is, well, does Genius have a future? According to a system I've developed over the last 12 years and really started experimenting with about 10 years ago, yes, it does. So let's look at this 95% drop landscape. Because that means if a token has a future and there's a 95% drop, that's your best opportunity. When there's a 95% drop, keep in mind that the price must 20x to recoup. In situations like this, liquidity levels are low, which is good for small purchasers. Small purchasers can rise the price without too much problem. It's a problem for whales, though, because to be frank, whales don't want to buy something that has low liquidity. Like, for example, everything that has low liquidity, whales aren't too interested. Hex, low liquidity, whales aren't interested. Genius, a lot of whales, not interested in the low liquidity. But Genius is unique. It has the collateral vault, which allows whales to do big purchases that turns into liquidity for other people that pushes the collateral vault value up. We're going to go more over this. Is there a financial future for Genius? Well, I think so, and you can all use your own thoughts on that. What we have is the past is past. So in times like this landscape, a 95% drop. I've been through many bear markets and many mini bear markets, many mini bear markets as well. And I've learned many lessons. Focus on the future. Make the best of the past and the present. But one thing to know is that when you sell at a bear market, when you do liquidate your tokens at a 95% drop, you've guaranteed your loss. Hey, maybe you get lucky, it drops more and you rebuy them. So when there's 95% drop, really there's 3 different approaches you can take. All right? Make notes on this. Ooh, I'm cracking in my knuckles. I'm getting interested in this. But 95% drop, there's a passive approach. There's an active approach. But this all depends on you. It depends on your availability. It depends on the time that you have, other resources, transaction fees. So the passive approach is to just continue mining Genius. So continue your Genius mining. After all, Genius was made to capture revenue, to capture passive revenue, passive income, hyper yield, high yield. So when you do this, when you're just continuing Genius mining, there's something beautiful about it. But so what happens is when you end your mining, a passive approach is you could liquidate those rewards, so then you have your realized revenue, or you have the revenue in the form that you want it to be. And then after you end your miner and sell the rewards, you have that original Genius, you got that back, start another miner with it. And then that miner earns you rewards during the commitment period that you have, so you're earning rewards again, and you repeat. You repeat. So when it comes to Genius mining, I think it's a good idea with staking tokens and mining tokens. I think it's a great idea to forget about the principal that you put in. Forget about that, because that's something you can always use again and again and again in the future. Think more about the revenue. So it's not financial advice. I'm not going to ever give any financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, that's why. But I say it specifically to tell you it's not financial advice, because it's important you know that I'm sharing this to you for free. It's important for you to know that I don't get something out of it. It's important for you to know that you have your own free will, you have your own passions, you have your own life situation. So it's cool to talk with other people and find out what they're doing, different approaches, but ultimately you got to think about your situation. Take the time to think about your goals in your situation. Take the time to think about that, because your goals in your situation is important to you, right? All right, then there's an active approach. 95% drop. We have our passive approach where you just continue mining Genius. And the active approach is to frequently buy Genius. Like maybe once a week, maybe even once a day, once every other day, once every other while, maybe once a month, once every paycheck. But this active approach, there's a strategy called dollar cost averaging, and you can look that up if you don't know what that is, but DCAing here basically means to buy frequently. So with this active approach, where you had, let's say, $100 worth of Genius prior to this 95% drop, right? So let's call it $100 pre-drop. What happens is those tokens are now worth $5. It doesn't mean that they are $5. A lot of people get this wrong. A lot of people will say, oh, my $100 is now $5. I've lost all this money. Don't tell yourself that. Don't tell yourself that with any token, because you haven't lost money until you sell. If you tell yourself this, your perspective will make it really hard for you to see opportunity. Plus, you want to know if you want to feel, you want to discern for yourself the future. So 100% prior to drop of value now becomes worth 5. Well, take this for example. If you buy $10 worth of Genius at that point and the price recovers, well, that $10 Genius you bought is worth $200. I'm multiplying it by 20 here because earlier it was established that a 95% drop, when the price recovers to what it was before, it's required for the price to move up 20 times its current value, which happens all the time in crypto. So the price recovers when you buy that extra $10 in Genius and the price recovers, the $10 is now worth $200. What happens is you had a total investment of $110. 10 pre-drop, 10 invested pre-drop, then bought another 10. Okay, $110 investment. But it's now worth, with a price recovery, it's now worth $300. So with the passive approach, did your value really go up that much? No, but with this active approach, it's pretty sweet. Let's say the price only half recovers. I mean, if the price doesn't recover at all, then you have $15, right? But price half recovers, 10 goes to $100. Well, that $10 specifically, but your total $110 investment up to $200. That's pretty cool. So this is an active approach, something to think about. Maybe pause this slide and look at this here for a bit. Then there's also utilizing DEX pools. This is a way to kind of combine the active and passive approach, and it's a great way to do things too. This is where you become a liquidity provider. So you spend much less gas than you would by frequently buying, but also it's less work. It's less work than actively buying all the time. So this is where utilizing DEX pools is a happy medium. So let's say you had $100 prior, $100 of value, and then now it is $5 of value. The thing represents $5 of value. Well, when you buy at that point, you buy $10 worth of Genius, and you provide liquidity with another 10 for a stable or native token. This would be quite economical to do on the other blockchains other than Ethereum, such as Pulse Chain, Avalanche, Polygon, whichever ones that you feel that you want to use in the future. Here, $120 is the total investment. All right. So let's see the different scenarios that this can work out in. Scenario A. This is where the price rises more, right? So in scenario A, you had $120 total investment, but now you have a liquidity position with $10 of Genius and $10 in stablecoins. With scenario A, where the price rises, you end up resulting in excess stablecoin or excess native tokens, whichever. Scenario A can also be over time, over a month, over 2 months, over 3 months of when you wanted to acquire more Genius. You didn't acquire more Genius yet because you have excess stable coins. And you also, of course, earn revenue from being a liquidity provider. But what you do in those 3 months is you remove the liquidity from the pool. So now you have your excess of stable coins and you have some amount of Genius. And what you do is you're going to secure an extra amount of Genius by using those excess stable coins and native tokens to purchase more Genius. What you'll find is that this ends up positive. So if the price recovers, you have your $120 investment. With the price recovery, you have your $120 plus the LP fee income, so the revenue, plus more Genius tokens. So you're positive somewhere. It's difficult to calculate it. Scenario B. Scenario B kind of yields the same result. But in scenario B, that's where the price keeps dropping. Well, that's great. If your goal was to get more Genius, you're going to get much more Genius this way without spending the time to buy and remember to buy, and without spending the time to, without spending all the extra gas fees. So it's cheaper to do this. So with the price dropping more, you have your excess Genius. Yay. To realize that, you remove your liquidity from the pool. Give yourself a time frame to do this. Maybe you want to do it for 3 months. You keep all of the extra genius. So if the price recovers from your $120 investment, that's going to be at least $300 plus more genius that was acquired through fees and etc. If the price half recovers, your $120 investment turns into $150 plus some excess amount of genius, whatever that value is. And that's extra genius that you can use for mining, for revenue. So these are just how different scenarios pan out. So, okay, in summary, the landscape here. Well, this is kind of like a quote. Sow a strong position in the bear market, and then you reap a stronger position in the bull market. So the idea is when economic times are hard, you sow a strong position. You have the opportunity to do that. And then when economic times are amazing, that's when you can do other things you want to do. Buy, spend, convert it to a real estate, get a new car. So we have the 3 approaches. The passive approach is where you just keep mining genius. You always get that revenue. You always get that extra genius revenue. You can liquidate it, etc. You can burn it for the collateral in the vault. The active approach, that's where you frequently buy. You frequently buy until some point. Give yourself a time where you don't want to buy anymore. Maybe that's where you feel the bull market's coming. And then the best of both worlds is where you join a liquidity pool to passively buy frequently. All right, so the 95% drop, is this good for genius? Well, a lower price means a lower genius credit issue rate, which we'll go over more later. It's kind of a sneaky way that genius pushes its tokenomics into a better future. Well, because a lower price means more credit issuance. Lower price also means that more genius gets burned and it becomes deflationary. It's amazing for genius. Let's go back to that. Anybody not familiar with genius credit and the collateral vault, this part probably lost you. That's okay. Just hold on tight. You're going to learn a lot about this amazing mechanic that no other token has, and the exotic, bizarre, but really cool things that it does. So this is amazing for genius. A 95% drop is amazing for genius. Many people in the genius community, they see this. At the bottom is a orange line thingy. And this is more and more and more genius being issued. Now, as the price drops, this line rises even faster. And eventually, when this line gets greater than this teal, blue, greenish line, that's when stuff goes nuts. We're going to talk about that in a second. So we're in phase 2 right now. Phase 2 just means that genius credit is issued rapidly. We have a 95% drop. So technically, well, more into that in a second, but genius credit, it's issued rapidly because there are people who want to put collateral into the genius contract to back the price of genius. And there are many incentives to do this. Incentives such as discounted genius shares. Remember, we talked about the price of genius shares to get a piece of that revenue. Well, by depositing collateral, people are getting discounted genius shares. There's less cost for them to acquire genius and start genius mining. That's all gas intensive. There's no market slippage when you do this. The price you see is what you get. And there's no MEV bots. There's no bot that extracts value from you. Well, minor. There's no, yeah. So a 95% drop accelerates genius to phase 3. Those of you not too familiar with the collateral vault, just bear with me here. In phase 3, the genius price, it becomes extremely difficult to drop because there's more genius credit than supply. Well, why was that? That was because as the genius price drops, more genius ends up getting issued as credit. Kind of like the more the price of genius drops, the more genius your dollar can buy, right? So it's the same, except when the Genius credit level rises, good things happen. Keep following me here. Therefore, collateral is greater than the liquid supply. So the more Genius credit there is, the more collateral there is backing the price of Genius, backing the liquid amount of Genius. And that's why it's significant. Why? Why is this significant? Collateral greater than supply. That's what we all want. That's what happens. That's what is significant about phase 3. This is a time where all GENI tokens, they are all backed by the most liquid assets, crypto itself. Excuse me. This is a point where the Genius price can only go up. Well, think about it. If all of the Genius in circulation is backed by collateral and backed by more collateral, the ratio of collateral that is greater than the Genius supply itself, that's your potential of how much price increase you got. Excuse me. And Genius allows quite a significant amount of collateral to be higher than the supply. Exchanges, including decentralized exchanges, they end up having an insignificant influence on the price. The open market or the exchanges, they have their own rules. And then Genius has this closed market that has its own rules too, where the price goes up when people sell. It doesn't happen on exchanges. The price doesn't go up when you sell. It goes down. But with the Genius collateral vault, it's different. So the exchange rules for the open market, when phase 3 comes, the exchange rules, they then obey the Genius AI and the collateral vault pricing influence. And that, for those of you who have followed so far, those of you who haven't, there's more info coming. There's more presentations. It'll get to you. Be patient. But for those who understand it, or kind of understand so far, that is exactly how you do a stable coin pegged to a rising value. Ultimately, that's what Genius is. Ultimately, Genius is a stable coin, not pegged to a constant value, but pegged to a value that is always rising. Well, think of it this way. Society has algorithmic stable coins, such as Liquidity, LUSD. These are stable coins that, working with algorithms and the input from their users, maintains a stable price. Look at the price chart for Liquidity. It looks really neat. Or for LUSD, it's great. Society also has collateral-backed stable coins, like MakerDAO's DAI. Really, then you have USD Tether, USD Circle, and these are collateral-backed by a central party. These stable coins are pegged to a constant value. So Genius is like an AI stablecoin pegged to a rising value. And that rising value is the rules of the collateral vault and the AI's incentives and strategies. Cool, huh? All right. I don't have a microphone to drop, but phase 3, this collateral vault, it's in contract liquidity. Side note, what this really means is that Genius doesn't even depend on an exchange to survive. So again, the collateral, it backs the value of all the Genius tokens in supply. I remember this slide, and I want it to make as much sense to everybody as possible. You see, if the market price drops, you have the open market. Remember, you have the open market. That's like Uniswap, that's Coinbase, whatever. You have the open market. And then you have the Genius contracts closed market. That's the in-contract liquidity. So you have the open market and you have the closed market, which is good. So if this open market, if its price drops below this closed market price that is only going to rise in value, if the market price drops below it, well, all those day traders and bots, they're incentivized to buy all the supply they can get and then sell it to the Genius contracts closed market to get a higher value, which pushes the value up a little bit more. If you're not looking at me, and you can look at me, I'm doing little hand thingies. So these day traders and these bots, they're incentivized because they make revenue, they make profit doing this. Who doesn't want to make profit? Well, there are people who don't want to, but there's a lot of people who do want to. Which results in the higher collateral vault price, which also results in the Genius that was in this open market. It's now removed because somebody bought the Genius from the open market. When they sell it to the contract, it's burned. It's removed from supply. No more wash trading. It's burned. Well, what if the market price rises above the collateral vault? Right? Like, what are our potential outcomes? Excuse me. Do bad things happen? Well, if the open market is a much higher price and the closed market for Genius is a lower price than the open market, people who liquidate, they're not going to want to liquidate on the Genius contract. They're going to want to liquidate on the open market. However, when the open market's value is greater than the Genius closed market's value, this means that more people are being incentivized to get more Genius credit, to issue more Genius credit. And when they issue more Genius credit, this pulls the Genius's in-contract liquidity, or Genius's collateral vault, its closed market. It pulls its price upwards. So if the market price rises above the collateral vault's price, this gives greater potential for there to be more collateral to back the price of Genius, and the redeem rate for selling your Genius to the closed contract, to the closed market, a higher value. And once again incentivize removing more Genius from the market itself. That's AKA incentivizing more burning of the Genius token. Maybe give this another listen, but what you'll see is that in conclusion, this could seal a longer lasting and possibly perpetual phase 3. That's gonna be really weird. People seeing a token that's only rising in value and they can't figure out why it won't drop in value. And I guarantee you, many people won't buy just because it keeps rising, because some people are like, wait a minute, I'm going to wait for the crash. Okay, last part that's quite bizarre. This is us talking about market price, stable coins, right? It's things that stay the same. But you know what? The collateral vault is always paired with the native token. And the native token, as we all know, it's always going up and down. It's always oscillating. So a rising price of your native token, such as Ether for Ethereum, Pulse for Pulse Chain, when the native token price rises, it triggers this reaction. It triggers all of these beneficial reactions to Genius's tokenomics. So the market moving alone is what is triggering these actions. People don't even have to use Genius. People can just keep using the stable coins, and people can keep using the whatever collateral is accepted to issue Genius credit. Native token, people can keep using that, and because it oscillates with the value that you can redeem Genius for from the closed contract, it triggers all of these same reactions. It triggers all of these beautiful tokenomics that do this positive thing. And you know what? Even when the native token's value drops, it also triggers this reaction. So phase 3 will be quite crazy. So phase 1 and phase 2, well, during this time that we're in today, this is where Genius, it's AI's incentives and strategies. The AI itself, it's incentivizing people to do things. The AI is marking data and gathering statistics and the algorithm changes the accounting to incentivize users to act. And when users act, the AI learns what is worth it for them. What's worth it? Now that we know that that's worth it, Let's make it more valuable. So the AI, its strategy is to promote a continuously improving economic future of the Genius token itself, constantly pushing it closer to phase 3. And once in phase 3, constantly sealing that deal. And this is all regardless of Genius's price. This is all regardless. Like, this is all happening quicker with Genius dropping. So the future of Genius is positive, regardless of a bear market, regardless of a depression, regardless of a crash. A crash just means a quicker, better future, or better future in the nearer future. Yeah, wait. Okay. And even regardless of lower activity, such as lower miners, like less Genius miners, it ends up pumping the revenue. Like when there's less Genius miners, that's more revenue for everyone else because everyone else has a bigger share. Genius phase 3. Genius phase 3, it's the Genius AI's checkmate against the open market. In the open market world, when you sell, the price drops. So the people who sell first, they get the better deal. And they trigger panic selling. Look, how economics were designed today, do you think they were designed to make you rich? No. They were designed to make exchanges rich. They were designed to make banks rich. They made a math game for you to play and for them to siphon money away from you. That's the open market that exists today. It is a panic-driven, greedy, volatile market. And the crypto market, the cryptocurrency market as a whole, has modeled and mimicked this as much as possible without innovating too much. Uniswap has innovated a good chunk. Aave's done cool things as well. But you see, that's the open market. The closed market that Genius has, it's very different. When you sell, the price doesn't go down like the open market. The selling price increases for the next person who sells. So in Genius's collateral vault, it's not panic driven. It's driven by when does the end user really want to convert that value to something else? When does the end user want to use that? When does the end user want to buy something or all the things that people do with money? So in the open market world, the person who sells first gets the best deal. The person who sells last gets the worst deal. In Genius's closed market, the person who sells first gets the worst deal. And the person who sells last gets the best deal. As long as we're still in phase 3. Which looks like it could be perpetual just from human nature. Just from how humans are in general. Don't underestimate. You might be one of the smartest people with tokenomics, economics. You might be one of the smartest people with day trading. Well, hold on. You may have been somebody who saw a great opportunity, but don't ever underestimate. Don't ever underestimate how the default nature with people who have been programmed by this panic-driven, greedy society, volatile tokenomics. So Genius solves a lot of problems with the open market. So once phase 3 comes, theoretically, it'll eventually return to phase 2. However, it's possible phase 3 does last indefinitely. So once again here, phase 3 is Genius AI's checkmate against the open market. So in summary, this 95% drop, it's amazing for Genius. It's crazy amazing. Tokenomics, they accelerate faster towards phase 3, 10 to 20 times faster. And phase 3 Genius, it controls the rising GENI token price and amount of fully backed Genius. It controls it by incentives. It controls it by determining what's valuable for you. It's pretty cool. So in the next section, this has been an hour-long video. If you've watched all this, great job. I hope you gathered a lot of good examples and things here. In the next slides, in the next video series, we're going to look at the Genius accounting. We're going to like look under the hood at the little pieces, and we're going to see exactly how much faster this is accelerating and how we can all gauge it ourselves. All right, thank you again for watching, and I'm happy.